Good career change, Alan. I think they are currently down on staff, so anyway. Well, I see Peter Burt made a comment online saying Alan Booth is always correct, so Alan's having a really, really good day. If I may, I'll bring it back together. I'm just conscious of time. We might go a couple minutes over, but there is another presentation after this. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to have a little bit of a play around. If you haven't, because the technology didn't work or the like, please feel free to come see me after this or the like, and we can have a discussion about that. That exercise was just designed to help you understand some of the behind-the-scenes mechanics, how it can be quite finely balanced to try and get wards within the plus or minus 10% and the like. What I'll do at this point is just move to the final slide, if the clicker will work. Perfect. And this is all about bringing everything together, providing us with some clear guidance so that as your officers we can move forward and come back to you with what you're looking for. I know that Councillor Burt's provided a couple of comments online. I don't know if Councillor Oliver's also online, so I'll just pause and see if they're able to turn their audio on if they want to make any comments. He didn't want to? Okay. Jess, correct me if I'm wrong, but his comments effectively were that he liked the status quo but wanted proportional representation, something like that. Okay. Okay. So, just before I wrap it up and I tell you at least what I've heard and then you can correct me, just to Councillor Booth's point before, he was asking earlier in the session about number of elected members per population. So we've got the data from Stats NZ, I can distribute it, but just as a rough idea throughout Canterbury, for example. So Timaru, currently, under the 2023 population estimates and current number of elected members, we've got 5,441 people per elected member. Take, for instance, Ashburton, 4,080, so about 1,500 less. Queenstown, oh, that's outside of Canterbury, to be fair, but that's 4,800. Huranui, 1,380. Christchurch, just below 2,500. Selwyn, just over 8,000. Mackenzie, 813. Waitaki, 2,500. Waimate, just over 1,000. As a general rule, if you were to do it on an XY axis, it would be the more urban you are, the higher number of people are represented by an elected member. The more rural you are, the fewer, and Timaru may be somewhere in the middle, for example. So just to give you an idea of comparisons. But if you're interested, we can share that spreadsheet. They've got them for the entire country. Yeah. And ultimately, it's up to you, the councillors as a body, as to whether or not you feel that we have the right representation, the right number of elected members. Are there any comments anyone wants to make about the number of elected members before we talk about boundaries?
So with those comments, were you suggesting that we should get a larger district and perhaps some extra community boards in Waimate and Fairlie Tysel? Is that where you're leading us?
Mark is right, we can't make a decision. You, your worship, are our community leader, so if you'd like to announce an invasion of someone, then it would be through you, not through us as officers.
But I think yes.
Okay. So bringing everything together, what I've heard today, if I may be so bold as to say so, is in terms of guidance, it sounds like Council's comfortable with the wards as opposed to, say, an at-large system in terms of a proposal. It sounds like you're comfortable with the existing community boards and their boundaries. Would that be fair to say? Please tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm just telling you what I've heard so that we can go away and model this up for you in a report so you can make some decisions. It sounds as if there's a desire to look at a few options in terms of boundaries, one of which is the status quo with outside the plus or minus 10% as one option. Another one would be possibly that 2A, where all of Arari is moved from one ward to another, so that we're within the plus or minus 10%. Might be another option. There was another one that Councillor Pai referred to, maybe it was the Mayor, Chief Executive, sorry, I lost track of that exactly, but it was a north of the Opahi versus a south of the Opahi, looking at what that might look like from a numbers perspective. And then fourthly, there was a Timaru Township versus the rest, or as one ward, and then the rest is another ward. Have I understood that correctly? Please correct me if I've got anything incorrect.
Can you just tell me when we go out for consultation what that looks like? Do we go, this is what we're proposing, tell us what you think? Or do we go, here's 4 options, tell us what you think? Or 2 options? Or
Good question. So we are required, council is required to resolve an initial proposal with one draft option. As part of that, we can take the community through what other valid options are, including the ones that we've looked at. So it's certainly not a case of saying, here is our one option, what do you think, in isolation. We can take the community with us, but we are required to resolve an initial proposal on one option. So if, for example, those 4 options that I've just outlined reflect the broad thinking of the council in terms of what you'd like to consider in a council paper, we can go away, do that work, present a paper, present a report at a council meeting, and you can resolve to go with an initial proposal of one of those 4 options or something completely different. Or alternatively, if you don't feel like you're at that stage, then we can go away, do this work, come back for another workshop. We'll be guided by you.
another question, if we wanted to stay status quo and apply for an exemption, does that happen before consultation or after? Or when?
Good question. So we would, if you wanted to go with the status quo with outside the plus or minus 10%, we'd go to the community with that as the initial proposal. The community would provide feedback. Council could choose to amend the proposal based on that. But anyway, resolve to make a final proposal, and if that final proposal is still outside the plus or minus 10%, or if there are any appeals to that, then it goes to the Local Government Commission. So there's certainly, it's not an immediate fast track to the Local Government Commission.
And if it gets declined, then we have to start all over again?
It wouldn't be, if the Local Government Commission doesn't agree with Council, they will make the determination for us. We will not go through the entire process again. And Council, regardless of whether we're outside the plus or minus 10%, if we do end up requiring a determination from the Local Government Commission, we're involved in that discussion. So, for example, the Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council officers would be represented on that. So we're certainly able to present our case. And one of the things that they look for is, for example, how have you identified your communities of interest? The exact exercise that we've been doing today and that we've been doing in other workshops. So that's why these exercises are so important. Yeah. But no, we wouldn't have to do the whole exercise again.
Look, my only comment is the last option. I know it's worth a conversation, but I think it just opens a can of worms, and you'll end up losing representation because it's counter to the wards, I think, and you're going to end up with, you know, a Parry or included with a Geraldine, and you know, then the practicality of the democracy. How does that work with bringing it together? Where do they meet? Where do they, you know, it's bigger than just a light on a map. I just think it's on a hiding to nothing. Happy if there's enough nods around the table to take it through. Otherwise, personally, I would leave it off. Yeah.
Timaru versus everything else. What about the split along Opahi?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So getting some feedback from Pleasant Point around whether they would like to look at a 4th ward, is that what you're meaning? Yeah, so the numbers were significantly out for option 3, the 4 wards, on the current boundaries and the current numbers of elected members. We could do an exercise, for example, to see how many, on the current boundaries, how many elected members might be needed for any particular ward to get within the plus or minus 10% or a lot closer to it. Ultimately, today...
You've also got to make sure that
is there a desire for us to go away and do some work around Pleasant Point? Is there a desire for us to go away and prepare some information to come back as a workshop, or do you feel like if we presented these options to you in a report that you would have enough information to make an informed decision?
I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel here, just make some minor adjustments.
So that's to clarify. So a report including the status quo with the outside plus or minus 10%, the 2A Orari option, north of Opahi versus south of Opahi, Timaru and the rest, and then looking at Pleasant Point. And okay,
We're eliminating Timaru and the rest.
Timaru and the rest. Okay, cool. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any further questions or want to discuss any aspect of this, please do not hesitate to contact us. We're very happy to guide you through any aspect of it. Thank you for your time.